Okay, let's begin. I am Lanice Antoine Shelley, and I'll be your host through constructive, healing-based conversations designed to illuminate the adoptee, parents, and the adoption curious. We center the topics around community, mentorship, leadership, and healing, so you get a multi-dimensional view that is ultimately empowering. These are the voices who could not speak when they were young. Hey y'all, if you've seen me on Instagram, I'm in my summer glow phase and I am unapologetic about it. My hair is luscious. Fun fact, I didn't start properly treating and doing my own hair until I was a grown adult because like many Black adoptees, no one showed me how to do my own hair. And because I love you all so much, I'm going to share with you my hair secret. I'm always on the lookout for things you'd love and things that will enhance your well-being inside and out. We Unique Cosmetics sent me their Moisture Lock pomade and scalp and hair therapy oil from their Metamorphosis line, and it's so decadent, light, and nourishing, fam. This has become a hair routine staple. It has a soft lemongrass scent that people comment on when I walk by or when they're doing my hair because now I have boho locks. They also sent me a 15% discount link for you to try their products and hair tutorial service. And Unique Cosmetics is Black owned and operated by a mother and daughter duo dedicated to helping the adoptee community. Check out the link in the show notes. And this is for all ages, fam. So tell your friends. So come on, embark on a hair-loving journey with We Unique World. From interactive workshops to premium products, they're all about empowering you to embrace your unique hair journey. Because remember, all hair is good hair, especially when it's healthy. Hey there, fam. How's your heart today? I'm doing pretty well, but I do have some pangs of anxiety right now as I am applying for some major grants, which ask for essay after essay. If you're an artist like me, there are a plethora of grants and fellowships out there that can help bring your visions to fruition. I put a link in the show notes to the ones that I'm excited about so that you can look into them too. Hey, we've got to be creative in these times, right? Even though I am in a really wonderful, lucid space, I do have a propensity for melancholy. One of the things that help keep my spirit buoyant is having my plants and my cat Harpier, who wakes me up with purrs and cuddles and even sneezes directly in my face every single morning. Having to care for other beings outside of myself helps me to step out of my neuroses and not sink back, but constantly move my heart forward into the world. I love to see them happy and flourishing because it is a reflection of who I truly am. Okay, this conversation blew my mind. We talk about motherhood and artistry along with one of my favorite movies that happens to be adoption-centric. The light-hearted, comedic French film He Even Has Your Eyes, available on Netflix. It's about a Congolese couple who want to adopt and end up with a Caucasian, blue-eyed baby. This brings up a lot of prejudice and racism ingrained in adoption and rearing children that are of a different hue. The way they highlight the social workers and family responses is hilarious, but true. It is heartwarming and delightful. Here to break it down with me is my extraordinarily eloquent friend, actor, and filmmaker, Marissa Lichwick. Good morning, Marissa. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm really happy to see you.
You too. It's been so long. How many years?
Oh my God, I don't know.
A few years.
I think before you left for Stratford, you had found out about Stratford. That was the
Okay.
last time I saw you.
That's 2016, and that was at Torrey's, yeah?
No, you were helping me with a Shakespeare monologue for a Chicago Shakespeare audition.
Okay.
Then you told me about it. And then, yeah, that's the year I got pregnant.
I
And
know, I haven't
so,
even met your little boy.
oh, he's downstairs eating buttered noodles.
What's his name?
His name is Lake, like Lake Michigan, but
Mm-hmm.
it's Laike, which is the Norwegian spelling.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, and
Um,
he has red hair. So I completely connected to the film in that sense.
oh, absolutely. I'm so excited to talk about this film because I watched this film when it first came out in 2016. He
Brilliant.
even has your eyes. And I was just blown away by how heartwarming it was, how
Mhm.
fun, and how it addressed some underlying issues with adoption as well. What were your first impressions on the film?
Um, well, surprise, obviously. I mean, I had, I was like, I had saw the trailer, and so, but when I first saw the trailer, I was like, I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. I love how they're being subversive here. And
Yeah.
then I watched the film, and then of course it goes, deeper into their story, the family unit, and then the baby, and then
Yeah.
just I guess I can't say it was the bigotry of the, like, the social worker, but
The
that
prejudice.
that yeah, I felt like that was sort of the underlying tone, as well as, like, I don't know, her opinion. Maybe this was the first time, even though there was another scene with the two gay men, and how, like, okay, like, everybody's adopting.
Yeah.
um
Just their
and
surprise with the unconventional couples, right? Because we have this
yes.
perception of adoption where only white people do it and only white people adopt outside of their race. And here is a movie that addresses the fact that Black people adopt white kids as well, and it's not as prevalent, it's not as popular as white people, because white people have been doing it for centuries, you know. And 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 so it's this movie was very interesting in its way of addressing those prejudices that we have ingrained in us. Society has told us, oh, only white people can do this. Even when they showed Sally at the park, and everyone always thought that the baby uh,
The
was a
nanny.
kid that she was babysitting. She
Yeah,
was the
yeah, yeah,
nanny.
she was a nanny. Yeah. I get frustrated when I go to the park because my son looks very Caucasian. I mean, he has my face, but he's also got red hair and very pale skin, and does resemble his dad too. And so people have asked me, they're like, are you the nanny? Like, during story time back when he was, like, just a lot smaller than 4. And they were always like, are you the nanny? And I'm like, at first I was just shocked, and then I was like, nope, nope, I'm the mom. I was like,
Wow.
baby's half Korean. He has red hair. Oh my God, he has recessive genes. What can I say?
What was the response to that when you told them? Were they shocked like they
Well,
were in the movie?
well, I think internally they were just surprised that an Asian baby had red hair, because they were like, where did this recessive gene come from? Looking at me, who looks fully 100% Asian, which I am. Like, I did 23andMe, so I am part Japanese, part Chinese, and 88% Korean. So I'm predominantly Korean. And they would just be like, well, he's beautiful. They were like,
Yeah.
his hair is beautiful, he's beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, okay, thank you. we got to get home.
Yeah, they're trying to clean it up a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't ever assume whenever I'm in story time, like with a group of moms, or just in a setting where it's a group of moms. I just never have any assumptions when I see the baby and the mom. Like, sure, I see if they look alike, and I'm like, oh, she has your eyes, or something like that. But I just but this movie, I'm like, well, I was not surprised that it hasn't been like translated and done in English, because I think the audience is very different. And I do think that European adoptees, the way they the way they viewed adoption is different. Like the French, people, New Zealanders, if I can call them that, Australians, they just have a different way of looking at adoption, and the numbers are high in all three of those places, and London, I'm sorry, not London, England as well. But I've met when I lived in Korea, I met Italian adoptees. I met, adoptees from Belgium. And the only language that we had in common was Korean. And I barely spoke Korean. And so it was just a lot of gesturing, but their behavior and the way they sat, the way they walked in, their fashion, it was so like the Italian guys were so Italian. They came in with their black leather jackets, and I was just like, wow, that we are a product of our culture. But at the same time, it's just so funny seeing it through the eyes of an adoptee.
Oh, absolutely. And this film had a lot of hilarious moments, like with the family, dealing with the family's perception of adoption too, because a lot of times these extended families don't quite support adoption, but they support the couple's fertility journey, or their journey to have a child. And so grandparents wanted to name the child Usman because it was tradition. And then when they saw the child, they're like, wait, he's white and with blue eyes. How can we name him Usman? And they were just devastated by that. But it was so funny. And then just dealing with the dynamics of the family and also of the world's perception of Black people raising a white child. And even though, historically speaking, we've been doing it, BIPOC people have been doing it for centuries, right? As maids, as slaves. And so it's fascinating that when put into an actual familial situation, people question whether BIPOC people can raise a white child. Hey, I want to share with you something that has changed my life. It's more like someone, my therapist. Why is she so important? Well, because I want to win in this life. I want to break through the carousel of stories I've compiled that hold me back, that keep me from expanding into my full potentiality. Stories of unworthiness, not enoughness, and even stories of questioning why I am here. I also want to stop dumping my unsorted feelings on the people around me and reacting with the same behavioral patterns that keep me stuck. Conversations with my therapist have made me more confident, clearer in my intention, and more centered in my spirit. That is why I am elated that we are sponsored by BetterHelp, where you can, from wherever you happen to be right now, match with a therapist tailored to your exact needs. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. Someone who you can text at any time and schedule online for either a chat, Zoom, or phone call. And if it turns out that your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. Visit the link in the show notes, betterhelp.com, when they were young, to get 10% off the first month. You need to click the link in the show notes in order to get the 10% discount. I want to see you win, beloved. Let's do it together. Visit the link, betterhelp.com, when they were young.
Yeah. Well, I think I mean, I don't know much about French culture, but that obviously plays a lot into it. I think that, parallels what Americans would think too, or what might run through their head if they saw, a black couple with a white baby. They would run through the assumptions of, oh, they can afford uh, to adopt. They're like, oh, well, what are they gonna like? What about their hair? And trying to like do like Asian hair, and what like all of these thoughts run through our head. Similarly, the way that it's thought in opposite, with I saw an episode of This Is Us. In this episode of This Is Us, like the black women looked at the mother and was like, she don't even know how to cut his hair. And then finally, you know, this one woman came up to her and she was like, listen, I can go with you. I know of a salon where we can go to get his hair cut, because she realized, I don't know how to like do his hair and cut it and when to cut it. And so that I thought that was just a kind of a nice snapshot into everything that goes into what parents have to be prepared for when they adopt children. White, white or black, black or white, however it's interchanged.
Yeah.
And
Oh, absolutely. And doing that research and educating oneself. Because my whole thing is, if you don't have friends in that culture, why are you adopting from that culture? I don't understand it. If you're not willing to go into that community yourself, by yourself, then why do you think you are qualified to raise a child from that community? That was a question that I posed during the panel, because it's something that is prevalent. And as much as I love my mom, she doesn't have any black friends, and she really struggled raising two black girls and knowing how to do our hair and how to nourish our skin and things like that. And a lot of families just kind of give up, or they do the minimum just to get by. But it's a bonding opportunity with that child if you engage in their culture and really acknowledge the fact that they are different and celebrate the fact that they are different.
absolutely.
And I just love this film so much because not only did it show the dynamic between the families and the social workers and everyday people, but this couple, they were so sweet. Like Paul and Sally were so sweet, and you wanted them to win.
I know. I was in tears when like but I was like laughing at the Manu character because sorry to say this, but the Norwegian couple had the black baby, and then of course the central characters had the white baby, and Manu was like, oh, the social worker was smoking something.
Yeah.
Something to that degree, and I was just cracking. I was just cracking. He just made me laugh and was a really great comic relief. But at the same time, I don't know. A lot of it is about timing. Adoption has changed so much. I know for Asian Americans, then, than 30 years ago. It's changed so much, and the prices are so different, and the requirements are so much more strict than
How have
when
they changed? What are some
well,
some key
Korea.
points that have changed that you've witnessed?
Well, I know specifically for Korean adoption, it stopped. They ended it because they were so ashamed of what they had done in the 80s. In the 80s, they really used adoption for the economy. And so what they did is they pushed kids into orphanages, and they paid, the parents off, or whoever was taking care of the child at the time, and they really pushed them into the orphanages, and the orphanages pushed out, exported their children so that they can, you know get money. I think over 200,000 kids were adopted within, definitely in that decade. It really was so that they could raise money for the Olympics.
The internet is being so spotty right now, and I want to make sure the audio is perfect because what you're saying is extremely important. But you were talking about Korea and how the laws had changed, and over 100,000 people.
200,000 children were exported out of the country so that the economy could, so there could be more of an economy. And they use that money for the Olympics.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. So human trafficking.
And if you meet any adoptee, that's, like not 20, but if you meet any adoptee, majority of them are going to be in their mid 30s, and so, I guess within that range, but they're going to be in their 30s. And it's because we were cheap, we were pushed out, we were given whatever identity that the family wanted, and there were hundreds of orphanages in Seoul alone. And I went back and I visited my orphanage, and I saw that there were 70 kids, that need to be adopted. But when I was there, I was told there were 700 kids. And so, it's just to show you how, you know, why they're ashamed. And because they're ashamed, if you're adopted, you can go over there, get dual citizenship, and um and then they've now just completely closed off adoption, international adoption. They frown upon national adoption, but in they're like, at least you're Korean, but most people, that's not a Korean, you know, um, behavior or habit, is to adopt other children. It might take very specific circumstances in order for that to happen, but you know,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
there is a stereotype of a demographic that tend to adopt. You spoke earlier of how economics is an issue with adoption as well. Like this is a
Mhm.
economic status.
Now
Uh,
it is, yeah, for Americans, because I caught my mother. Well, first of all, she charged me. She got me off she bought me from with a credit card for $5,000, and equally for my brother. So I mean, I don't know if she put herself $10,000 in debt or $5,000 in debt, but she put herself in a little bit of a debt to adopt two kids. She ended up She had 10 kids. She adopted 8. Not all were international. Uh, there were 5 Koreans. Not only there were 5 Koreans, and then three white children from the city, which has a whole different connotation, whole different journey and narrative. But And the prices went up, I think a couple $1,000s each year. And the last two that were adopted came in, I want to say 89. So shortly after the Olympics, they they came. Yes.
Did your mother ever tell you why she adopted so many kids?
I I mean, she has like she never has directly, she's never been like, I was doing God's work, even though she's a very religious woman, so she felt like she was doing work greater than herself. But at the same time, she did not have the resources, she did not have the education. I mean, she dropped out of high school when she was in the 10th grade. She didn't have the resources. I mean, equal same with my father. I mean, they were high school dropouts. They decided to adopt all these kids in the third in when they were in their late 30s because they were so cheap. And my mother always wanted an Oriental baby, and
Oh,
she wanted
wow.
but she adopted an Oriental baby. Sorry, Oriental baby, and social services came and took the baby away because single mothers couldn't adopt, and she hadn't finished all of her paperwork, and so someone called and told on her. And so later on in life, obviously 2 decades later, or a decade later, she ended up just, I don't know, adopting all these Korean kids. And I think it helped that we were so cheap. Now I talk to people today, and I know it runs the gamut, but so it's a really complex story, and I know it's really expensive today. Um, I think people obviously they can still adopt from China, Eastern Europe.
A
Um,
lot of a lot of truths are being unearthed right now that have to do with this misconception of the adoptive family being more endowed with resources, more
Mhm.
prepared than the birth parents. And more articles are coming out just like obliterating that misconception, because you hear about people literally having GoFundMe's so that they can adopt a child. If you don't have the resources to adopt a child, why are you more qualified to raise this child than the birth parent? And there's this idea that the birth parents are ill-equipped, they're poor, they're destitute, and they're not competent enough. But it sounds as if the birth parents are just as competent as these adoptive parents who are scrambling to make it work. And it's just so fascinating to me that people have believed for so long in the vilification of the birth families and saying, oh, give the child a better chance, a better home, more resources, but that's not necessarily the truth of it. And especially in your case, which is really interesting. As a filmmaker, what adoption stories or perspectives should be amplified, do you think? Because you are an artist, a filmmaker. What stories do you think should be told when it comes to adoption?
well, I think biographical stories are good, and I do encourage people that and I've seen lots of documentaries, but I have yet to see a narrative. And so this is why I'm trying so hard to create a narrative so that you see people that are just adopted living this regular life, rather than singling out their experience as being different
or marginalized. You know, they also have a lot of documentaries of reunifications, and I think that can easily be done in a narrative form as well. I also think that whenever you tell people you're adopted, they have a certain sympathy for you. And I don't, I don't think, I think we need to make people aware that it's not necessarily a sympathetic thing. We are not victims. We're not victims and therefore adopted. There's a range of stories, and I think in order to normalize adoption and people being adopted, even if it's biracial, transracial, interracial, um, that it's just that it's life. It happens, like you go to different parts of the world, and there are villages where people just, they take care of all the children. It's a community. And so just to build that community of like, yes, there are adoptees and they have interesting lives. Like, you are not just an adopted young woman. You are artist. I'm, you are, you're a visual artist, you are a spoken artist, you are a actress, you embody other people, you are a dancer, you have power with, you have a lot of physical power, meaning your body, as well as emotional and psychological powers, but you're an empowered person. And so people need to see that just as equally as the adoption factors. And so I think that victimization needs to leave that picture, and instead it's like, I'm a filmmaker, or I am a wife, I am a mother, I am this, I am that. And it's more about owning your identity now, today. And you can always talk about the journey of getting to today, or where you're trying to go, which might have started with adoption. But once again, it's a journey. It is not a singular fact, a singular experience. It was an experience, influenced your life, you took it and you ran, and you are who you are today. Because we've seen films about young people like getting adopted. And so if you're going to make a film where it ends, where the narrative ends as the person getting adopted is sort of like the celebration of the film, then you need to really investigate where it all started, where it derived from, the beginning of their experience before, as they become adoptees. And so there's so many angles into it, but I think most importantly, we are not victims, and our identity is beyond adoption, and we can use it for our art. But it is like, I have black hair. It's a little bit more profound than I have black hair, but it's just like, yes, I'm a short woman, I have black hair, I have a child, I'm a mother, I'm adopted, like.
Yes, I think that's exactly right, Marissa, because adoption is and can be this cloud that encompasses everything, that occupies everything. And I don't believe that it has to. With this podcast, that's why I don't bring people on and we just talk about their adoption. I anchor each conversation in an adoption-centric material so that we can unravel their journey and stories through this, because there's so much more to you, Marissa, than being adopted. And a lot of times people allow that to solely define them. And it's not the end, as you said. It's not the sole representation of who you are.
Yeah.
And exploring all the different facets of who you are is just as important as addressing your adoption trauma, your healing process. And it's wonderful that you think that, because that's the work that I'm trying to do, is just reveal to people that being adopted is a fraction of who you are.
Yeah.
And yes, address it, but then let it go. So what are you working on now? You have a film coming out called Yellow Dress.
Yeah, it's a short. It came out right before COVID. We finished it, and it's on the circuit, so on the festival circuit. So it hasn't, none of like the big festivals they don't know if they'll open. They're hoping to open like in March 2021. Like that's their hope. So a lot of the bigger festivals are scheduled in the spring. But you have the film festivals, and then you have the film awards. And the awards is when a jury sits and watches your film and critiques it, and then you can win like best picture, out of the pool of films that were submitted. And so it's won a lot of awards.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's been validating. Um, and people have been, because you know what, like, and this is what I'm trying to work on, as a artist, filmmaker, actress, whatever. I'm just trying to work on creating women that are not victims of instead, it is what their circumstances are, and they live it. But it's not this thing that like they don't wear this sorrow every day. Now this film, unfortunately, it's half live action and half cartoon or animation. And so the animation is really graphic, like a child is beaten naked. And so I wanted to distill that, but it's really heading straight on, like I don't play with like any metaphors here. She's beaten naked because she didn't want to be touched by an older woman. And so it's actually really women centric, which I didn't think about as I was putting it together. Thought about it a little bit actually. But it heads it straight on. But then the bigger picture is that it's about a mother who looks around and sees like the buckets of toys that her son has, and she reflects back to what she was doing when she was 4, which was being sold off to an orphanage, and then this is where some of the biographical pieces are sort of thrown in there, and then some of the harsher realities are thrown in there, and then we come back. But she has like 3 big flashbacks, which are kind of like, you could say they're sort of sort of seizures or huge migraines that just like dominate her brain, where she has no space for reality. Instead, just goes back to the past. So long story short, it's been doing really well. So that we finished. What I wrote and am trying very hard to put out into the world and try to find a producer so that we can get the funds to do it properly, is a pilot about a group of Korean adopted, based on my siblings, because there's 5 of us. Plus there are like, they're white adoptees too. And just how we all get together for the weekend, for the funeral, and then just everything kind of comes out. I don't know if one of the actors watched it and he was like, oh, this is kind of like August of Osage County, except it's a little bit lighter, it's a little funnier, but it's, you know, coming together and sort of going back to the past and just reliving and fighting. And so I guess that's the simplest way to put it. There are other factors that come in that create a little bit more conflict, but each episode would focus on each character so
Mm-hmm.
that you know their journey and then
Mm-hmm.
their present lives, you know.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
sounds like a powerful piece. Where can people stream your yellow dress?
Oh, it's on Vimeo, and um, everything has to be locked because of the film festivals. They don't want films that are just open to the public that they can just watch. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why curate it if it's already available? So they can go on Vimeo and they would have to contact me for the password.
Okay.
Um,
Well, we'll
yeah.
definitely leave your information in the show notes so that people can do that and just check out this powerful work that you've created. So this is a question that I close off every podcast episode with. Where in your life do you think you can apply courage?
Oh my goodness, I feel like everywhere. You know, with motherhood, I do feel like the child takes a part of your soul and your brain.
Mm.
And so I I have to I have I don't have just like natural instincts as a mother, I don't think. So I have to really apply a lot of myself and learn to give a lot of myself because I've held on to, like, for survival's sake, you know, I've just held on to myself without really opening up. And I think having a child opens you up. I mean, it physically, like, opens you up, your body. But as he grows, I think I it's going to require a lot of courage to um open myself up so that he grows up to be an open person. He grows up to be a loving, sympathetic person and not a person that's holding on to baggage that was sort of passed down to him. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
in Korea there's a term called Han, which is sadness, and all Koreans believe they're born with it because of the wars and all of just the history of Korea. So the people feel like they're born with it, and I believe in it, and I think that I can't pass that to my child. Like he is also American, you know, he is Korean and he is American, and he needs to, like I said, grow up to be this open, sympathetic person that I see. And so I need to keep on encouraging that. And that takes a lot of courage because I sort of just sometimes just want to close myself off to him. Other places, of course, in our art and exploring and writing, and how much do you expose? I think thus far I've exposed a lot. So, how much do you expose internally with a character that you can feel, but it's never given to you? And
mhm.
so I think that will take a lot of courage to, like, you don't have to give them everything. Like, hold on to that part of yourself that you're kind of afraid to give to people. Incorporate that into your characters, into your work, into your acting work, your writing work. And then I think just being, a woman today, this day and age, as interracial couples grow, interracial children, like 1 out of 7, I think was the number back a couple years ago. So it's like maybe 1 out of 5 now. Um, and that and being ethnic and the climate that we've lived in so far, I just think it takes a lot of courage to stand up and advocate for myself and not to consistently give in because I'm an ethnic woman, and and we live in this certain climate, but it's time for me to like advocate for myself and for my child, you know what it is that we need. So,
Yes.
and what I need as a woman, to not just my husband, but to, like colleagues, people around me.
Yes. Yeah. All of those things, I think you hit it right on the head, Marissa, of motherhood, of artistry, and applying courage in all of those realms, and just taking ownership in the fact that you may pass down this inherited sadness that your culture believes in. And I actually believe in that too. So I love that you said it and so beautifully put. Do you think you would recommend the movie? He Even Has Your Eyes. Would you recommend
Oh, I recommend it to everyone. I mean,
it?
read fast because they speak fast French.
Yeah, they
It was
do.
like, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I had to do it
Yeah,
completely
the
backwards.
captions. Yeah, the captions go by really fast, right?
Yeah, they speak so fast. But absolutely, takes away everything that I was talking about, I feel like, as a, sort of a person that's been burdened by adoption. It takes away all of that. And then, it's a story, there's conflict, obviously, if characters want something, but it's just so much fun. And watching this couple and him building, like, like trying to build, like make the bedroom, and his friends. Yeah, absolutely.
Here are my reflections. 1. Social economics play a huge role in adoption. In many ways, it's a humanitarian status symbol to have an adopted child. We see politicians using it as a means to prove that they are not racist, but guess what? It doesn't. You having a child from a different culture proves nothing. We are all measured by our own individual characters. 2. Are you qualified to raise a child from a culture you choose not to be a part of? There is a wonderful bonding opportunity when you embrace all aspects of the child's character, not just the fact that they are now part of your family. 3. We must practice due diligence for the country these kids are coming out of and investigate the transaction of paying for a child. I personally know adoptees that were abducted from their biological families. Find out the adoptee's country's history around trafficking, and that includes the United States of America, friends, who has their hands in many atrocities. People like to think that corruption happens everywhere else, but if we can learn anything from the last 4 years, it is that the evil is coming from inside the house. 4. What is the information that we are relaying to one another? What energy, Han, have you inherited and are passing on consciously or unconsciously? Does it serve self-worth or does it diminish it? I think it's imperative to have these honest conversations, but be forewarned, some of the details are wounding. Perhaps preface the extremely harsh tidbits, such as how much you paid for the adoptee, with, "My intention isn't to wound you with this information," and really sit with them as they process it. 5. The adoptive families are not automatically equipped with resources to raise these children. We must obliterate the savior complex. No situation is inherently better. The success of adoption is not dependent on money or material things, so we cannot use it as a reason for adopting. And even the reason for love is false because love alone cannot save a marriage or a friendship, Plus, many adoptees were deeply loved by their biological families. What we need are opportunities for growth and education. Now there's a good reason. 6. Own your identity where you are today. Adoption is where you started. It is an experience that has informed who you are, but it is not an indictment. Name 3 things that you can claim first before your adoption. I'm going to claim I am an artist, I am a Haitian fashionista, and I am an animal and plant empath. This was one of my favorite conversations, fam. Marissa spoke life into this topic. There are so many things I did not know about Korean adoption. Thank you, sweet lady, for your wholehearted contribution. Be looking out for Marissa and her film, Yellow Dress, which I can't wait to see. You can find her on all the social media platforms. Well, you know where to find me at Young Adoptee on Instagram or my website, laniceantoineshelley.com. Another beautiful episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to my guest today. If you liked this episode, the best way to support me and this work is to write an iTunes review, a 5-star review. This helps us reach the top of searches and helps more people to find us. And if you personally want to connect, please reach out on Instagram or Facebook. And I have some great resource material on my website at laniceantoineshelley.com. So go on over there too. Until next we meet, go gently and have courage, my love.